Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is, of course, Gideon, and I am here today to present the English language to you in a relaxed and natural way. And of course, as it is week number 3 of August, I think, we're doing our 2 podcast episodes throughout August. So this is the first one of the week on a Wednesday. And of course, we will have another episode coming out this Sunday. Now, the main focus of this episode is going to be unusual laws we have here in England and the United Kingdom. And let me tell you, some of these will astonish you. I was extremely surprised that not only do we have these laws, but they're still in force today. You know, these are active laws that are technically still alive and kicking. You know, these laws could be enforced. So we're going to have a look at some of them and learn some new vocabulary and improve our English along the way. Because that is the aim of this podcast, is for you to be able to just listen, you know, to the English language in an authentic way, in a real way. So I do hope you enjoy it. Now, this podcast will be going out on Wednesday, the 21st of August. And that means that all going well, I went to see Taylor Swift last night at Wembley Stadium. I took my wife to see Taylor Swift. She's a big fan. So we went last night. So I don't know what it was like because I'm recording this before that date. In fact, actually, I'm recording this episode a week early. I'm trying to get a lot better at just pre-planning and being organised. So, yeah, this goes out on Wednesday morning, and I hope I had a great time. Went to see Taylor Swift last night. So I'll fill you in on how it was, perhaps in another episode. If we've got any Swifties out there, any Taylor Swift fans that would like to hear about my experience at the concert, then let me know. And if you're not a Swiftie, if you don't want to know, then don't tell me, because I probably will talk about it anyway. So yeah, Swifties, be alive in the comments. Very good, very, very good. So we've had some nice weather here this week. You know, I always like to give you a nice little weather update. In fact, last week it got up to, I think, close to 35 degrees here in England, which was astonishing. Everyone started to complain about it, of course, naturally. You know, we complain about cold weather, warm weather, hot weather, any weather. It's what we do. Okay, so we complained about it, but it was very nice. Now, before we get into the main topic, before we get into those unusual laws, there was something I'd like to address. And I've realised we're kind of doing that a lot at the moment in the podcast, but there was just a point that I wanted to just talk to you about. And just present my opinion to you. And that is non-native English teachers. Okay, teachers of English that are non-native. Now, being a teacher of English myself and working with different students, I get asked the question a lot. You know, should I have a non-native English teacher? Or perhaps they start the class saying, look, I didn't want a non-native English teacher. And I think particularly with social media, it can present non-native teachers of any language in a negative light. And I just wanted to share my opinion with you. And really, I'm just going to share that opinion through my experience and what I have seen. And that is that I've worked with quite a few teachers over the years now. And the ones that really have the best grasp, I've noticed, of grammar, of sentence structure, of the actual theory and knowledge behind a language are very often non-native teachers of English, because they have learnt the language, they have spent years studying it, understanding it, whereas very often native teachers like myself, we speak in the way that we do because it's how we were raised. It's all we know, and many times native English speakers don't know why we say things the way we do, or we structure sentences the way we do. We just do. But non-native teachers of English have had to really study that and learn that. One, to be able to do it themselves, and two, to be able to teach it. So I just wanted to express that there is absolutely nothing wrong with a non-native teacher of English as long as they are qualified, they know what they are talking about, and you improve. That is all that matters. So, if you want to work with a teacher but you think, oh, they're non-native, don't worry about it. As long as they help you to achieve your goals, that is all that matters. Now, just as a caveat, for example, with this podcast, I have a native southeast of England accent. So sometimes working on accent and pronunciation, it definitely helps to listen and absorb native speakers. So I do believe that, particularly with pronunciation and phonetics, just hearing the language presented in its most natural and authentic form is helpful. But do not just dismiss a teacher of English because they are non-native. What really matters is the qualifications, the knowledge, and most importantly, their ability to help you to improve your English. That is all that matters. And, you particularly see it on social media now. There's a lot of bad native English teachers out there. Just being native doesn't necessarily qualify you to teach the language, if you know what I mean. So that was just a thought that I wanted to share with you. And really, it was just to back up my friends and my colleagues that are non-native teachers of English. They are fantastic teachers. Absolutely incredible, in fact. And there's some amazing YouTube channels out there that are run and hosted and put together by non-native teachers of English, and they are absolutely brilliant. Being native isn't a qualifier for a good teacher. Okay? Just my little 2 pence on that. Just my opinion that I wanted to present with you. Remember, the main focus is that you are improving and you're getting better and you are learning correct English. That's all that matters. If you're doing that, then keep doing what you're doing. And a few other questions I've had, completely non-related. You know what I'm like. I like to skip from topic to topic. I had a few questions ask me, how's the drumming going? And I thought, how lovely of you to ask me questions, not just about the English language, but just about myself. Because I recently bought myself another drum kit. So I've been a drummer for close to 20 years now, but a drum kit has been absent from my life for the last 5 years. And I recently got another one. And it's going well. I'm nowhere near as good as I used to be. Let me tell you that. The arms are a little bit stiff. The rhythm isn't coming as naturally as it used to. But we're getting there. With consistency, practice, and persistence, slowly getting better. And I wanted to apply that to learning English. If you've had a little break for a while and you're just getting back into it, don't expect to go straight back to where you left off. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's be realistic. Let's be honest. That's not going to happen. So don't be discouraged if perhaps you've not had time to study English as much as you would like. You've come back to it and, perhaps it's just not the same level it used to be. Don't worry. It happens with everything. Just be consistent, be persistent, practice, be patient, and you'll get there. You know what I mean? Everything takes time, doesn't it? But there you go. Just a few little points that I wanted to talk to you about. All right, but let's talk about laws. Okay, we're going to look at some really interesting laws that we have here in the United Kingdom and in England. But before we get into it and we read some of these laws, I would love you to let me know, one, where you are listening from or watching from in the comments. Please do let me know, because I love hearing about it. But also, do you have any strange laws in your country that you know of? Okay, so where are you from, and do you have any strange laws? I would love to know. Okay, so please do let me know in the comments. And if you don't, just let me know where you're from and say hi. I love it when you all say hi. It makes me really happy. All right. Okay. And of course, if you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe to the most incredible podcast in the world, which is this one, and give this video a like because it really helps me out. Okay. All right. So, unusual laws here in England. Number 1. It's illegal to carry planks of wood along a pavement unless there is the intention of it being unloaded from a vehicle. Okay, just read that again. It's illegal to carry planks of wood along a pavement unless there is the intention of it being unloaded from a vehicle. So just as a note, a plank of wood is what we call a piece of wood, like a long strip of wood, depending, it doesn't really matter what width or size it is, maybe 4x2, 6x2, which is 6 inches by 2 inches. We call that a plank of wood. A plank of wood. And a pavement, of course, is where we walk alongside the road. In American English, this is called a sidewalk. In British English, we call it a pavement. So it's illegal to carry planks of wood along a pavement unless you have the intention or the want or the desire or the goal, if you will, of it being unloaded from a vehicle. So as long as it is being unloaded from a vehicle and to a building, it's okay. But you can't just walk down the street, down the pavement with a plank of wood. So if you planned on doing that in England, don't do it. It's against the law. The Metropolitan Police Act says a plank of wood must not be carried along a pavement. It can only be moved if it is being unloaded from a vehicle or taken into a building. This law dates back to medieval times when carts were often overloaded and the wood would fall off, posing a danger to pedestrians. Okay, so if you can only... This doesn't really make sense to me, that you can only take a piece of wood if you're taking it from the vehicle that it's loaded onto and into a building. And this dates back to medieval times where they would, of course, structures made out of wood. Not all wood, but a lot of houses and things were wooden framed. They would overload it, a piece of wood would fall off, and I guess with that piece of wood, you couldn't then stop and pick up that piece of wood. But surely that would be less of a danger to pedestrians. But that's the law. You can't carry a plank of wood along a pavement unless it's being unloaded from a vehicle. But this next one is one that really surprised me and made me quite sad because I've committed a crime if this next one is true. You know, take me in. I've committed a crime. Unusual law number 2. Flying a kite in a public place is technically illegal. Flying a kite is a thing that's on the end of a string. You put it up on a windy day and it flaps around in the sky. A lot of fun. In what might be considered a normal activity in the summer, such as flying a kite in a public place, it may come as a big surprise that this is actually illegal. What? This law was brought in to prevent there being common nuisances and danger to local passengers, as mentioned by the Metropolitan Police Act 1839, Section 54. What a joke. So basically what they're saying is that technically it's against the law because it might act as a nuisance, an annoyance, or an inconvenience, or a danger to local passengers. And I'll be honest, I've flown a lot of kites in my time. You know, one of my favourite pastimes was going to the beach and trying to fly a kite. Wasn't always successful, but there were times, you know, where that kite would catch a bit of wind and it would become like a missile down to the beach. Could cause some damage. So technically, if you're in England and you see someone flying a kite in a public place, you can just cut the string. It's illegal. Don't do it. But what a sad world we live in if we all stop flying kites. I can't actually remember the last time I flew a kite. I remember being really bad at it when I was younger. My brother was brilliant at flying a kite. He had like the finesse, the delicacy with the hands. And there's me just grabbing it with both my hands, trying to make it work, and it just never did. So yeah, there you go. Flying a kite in a public place is technically illegal. And when it says technically there, it's basically saying that as a technicality, as a fact, it's illegal, but generally you're going to get away with it. If a police officer gives you a fine for flying a kite, then they're just having a really bad day. The next one I thought was a given, but just in case you were thinking about it, you cannot gamble in a library. Okay, you cannot gamble in a library. Gambling is illegal in any library in the United Kingdom, as it is considered a public place. A library, of course, is the place with lots of books that we go to study, to read. I can't remember the last time I went to a library, to be honest. No, but yeah, that's where it is. The Library Offences Act was put into place as gambling can be a very disruptive activity, and it would be difficult for people to concentrate on their studies or reading if there was gambling going on around them. I can understand that. Difficult to study when you've got a group of people next to you gambling away, and people very rarely gamble in silence, do they? And just as a note, gamble is to bet money on something. So it might be cards or roulette or poker or something like that. And to be honest, you can gamble, you can bet money on anything. The toss of a coin. Heads or tails, you gamble on which one you think it's going to land on. But this is illegal in any library in the United Kingdom. So again, if you had plans of coming to the United Kingdom, gambling in a library, don't do it. It's against the law. Should be against the law because it's gambling, but it's against the law because it could become disruptive to those, to the people around you that are trying to use the library for its intended purpose. Next one really surprised me. Never happened to me, but apparently it should. Taxis can't transport rabid dogs, and drivers have an obligation. Sorry, I read that really incorrectly. Taxis can't transport rabid dogs, and drivers. No. Okay. They can transport drivers. Taxis can't transport rabid dogs, and drivers have an obligation to ask passengers if they have smallpox or the plagues. Just going to read that one more time. There's a lot of information in there. Taxis can't transport rabid dogs, and drivers have an obligation to ask passengers if they have smallpox or the plague. Okay, so rabid dogs is basic. Oh, it's come up with a. Okay, so rabid dogs. A rabid dog is a dog that is affected with rabies. Okay, so can't transport a dog with rabies. And drivers technically have an obligation or a duty to ask passengers if they have smallpox or the plagues. Okay? It's an absolute no-brainer. No question about it. If we describe something as a no-brainer, it's obvious. There's no question that rabid dogs or corpses cannot be transported because of health and safety regulations. The Public Health Act 1936 declares that taxi drivers have an obligation, again, a duty, to ask their passengers if they have the plague or smallpox too. So yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. There's no question that you're not going to take a rabid dog or a corpse or transport that. But I can't think of any time I've ever got into a taxi and he said, wait a minute, mate. You got not rabies. You got smallpox. You got the plague. No? Okay, just checking. I've got to be honest, if a taxi driver asked me that before I was getting into the taxi, I'd probably say, all right, I'm probably going to get the next one. I'm probably just not going to get in your taxi because that's a really strange question to ask. But technically, it's their obligation. Now I kind of want to get a taxi and just say to the taxi driver, hey, you haven't asked me. I don't have smallpox and plagues. You're lucky. You didn't ask me. I'm sure if I did that, I would get kicked out of the taxi pretty fast. But yeah, so technically it's an obligation for a taxi driver You got the plague? You got smallpox? No. In you come. Very good. And I've just looked out of my window and I have an intruder cat in my garden. Now, I'm a big cat lover, but this intruder cat likes to attack my cat. And I'm a bit defensive of my cat. So if you see me run out really quickly, or you're listening on Spotify and you hear a bit of a kerfuffle, that's what I'm doing. I'm protecting my cat because the other cat is much bigger. There you go. All right. Okay. Number 5. It is rumoured, so it's not necessarily true, it's what people say, that placing a postage stamp bearing the monarch's head upside down is treason. At number 5 in our list of the UK's weird laws, under the Treason Felony Act of 1848, it is an offence to place any mark upon His Majesty's coin or currency with intent to deface the same. There were rumours that if you placed a stamp upside down, that would be treason because of the perception of dishonouring the monarchy's image. However, this myth has been proven not to be true, and even via Royal Mail, it is still acceptable to place stamps upside down on letters. Okay, so it is an offence, as it says here, to place any mark upon His Majesty's coin, so now it would be the king, or currency with the intent to deface it, to deface that picture. And I actually always thought this was true until a few years ago, that this would include putting a stamp from the Royal Mail upside down on a letter. I always thought that was, I always thought it was frowned upon. Not necessarily illegal, but frowned upon. But apparently it's a myth. Now, why you felt any need to put it upside down, I don't know. Just put it the right way. Monarchy or not, just for correctness. Put a stamp the right way. Come on. I always top right corner when I'm doing a stamp. Where do you put your stamps? Top left? Top right? I don't know. But it is a myth that you can't place a stamp upside down. So if you want to, you can. But just for the sake of organisation and correctness, why would you? Number 6. It is illegal to be found drunk in a pub or on licensed premises in England and Wales. Section 12 of the Licensing Act of 1872 declares this to be an offence. Every person found drunk on any highway or other public place, whether a building or not, or any licensed premises. The Act was amended in the Licensing Act 1988 to extend this prohibition to all public places, including pubs, clubs, and even private homes if alcohol is being sold there. So basically, in a public place, it's illegal to be drunk, which is good because you shouldn't get drunk anyway. But apparently, it's illegal to do it. And the bit that really surprised me, that this is true, if you are selling alcohol at your private home, then people can't get drunk. It's illegal. I thought selling alcohol at your home was illegal anyway. But yeah, apparently that is against the law. It is illegal to be found drunk in a pub. And I guess it's very subjective as to what is drunk or not. Quite a difficult one, unfortunately, for police to enforce here in England. But technically, it is illegal. Number 7, this ruined my plans for the weekend because this is exactly what I wanted to do. You cannot walk cows down the street in daylight in England. Oh, plans for the weekend ruined. I was planning on taking some cows for a walk in daylight. I guess I'll have to do it in the evening. I'm joking. I don't have any cows. Would like a cow, but I don't have any. According to the Metropolitan Streets Act of 1867, which arises from the Metropolitan Police District, it is illegal to drive any cattle through the streets during the specific hours of 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. unless somebody had specific permission from the police commissioner. The law prohibits any person driving or conducting cattle in contravention of this section shall be liable to a penalty not exceeding 10 shillings for each head of cattle so driven or conducted. I love the fact that it's not riding a cattle or herding a cattle, it's driving a cattle. If someone asked me, what do you drive? I would just love to be able to say I drive a cow. I'm actually, I'm a fan of the older cattle myself. But yeah, it's illegal. You cannot walk cars down the street from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. in daylight. And I guess this is for traffic laws, I guess. Cows are extremely slow. So maybe that's it. But so once again, if you were planning on walking some cows down the street in daylight in England, think again, partner. It's not happening. Number 8. Members of Parliament cannot wear any armour inside Parliament quarters. Unbelievable. Members of Parliament cannot wear any armour inside Parliament quarters. A statute forbidding Bearing of Armour Act is still in effect today, and it makes it illegal in the UK law to wear a full suit of armour in the Houses of Parliament. Edward II put into place the statute to stop the violence that had broken out between the two factions of Parliament, the pro-royalist Lancastrians and the anti-royalist Earl of Gloucester's party. So basically, Edward said, look, we've got to stop the violence in Parliament between these two factions. You're not allowed any armour anymore. You're not allowed to protect yourself. And this is still a statute or a law that is in place today, that you can't wear armour into Parliament. I think sometimes it would make it a little bit more interesting. Just seeing these guys go into Parliament with full suits of armour on. I think that'd be quite interesting. But it's against the law inside Parliament quarters. Number 9. Again, lock me up. I'm a criminal, according to this one. Shaking your rug in the street. You might have a rug or carpet. So carpet, just as a comparison, carpet generally covers the whole floor. A rug covers just a little section of the floor, often to add a pop of colour to the room or to cover up a stain. You might have a rug or carpet that you need to clean and get rid of some dirt or dust. While you might think that a quick shakedown rug will be harmless, it is actually breaking the law. Section 60 of the Metropolitan Police Act 1839 says that it is illegal for anybody to beat or shake any carpets, rugs or mats except for doormats prior to 8 a.m. Oh, prior to 8 a.m. So you can't do it in the morning. Yeah, I was going to say, because I shook a rug out on Monday onto the street. Just needed it, a little beat down, and then you realise how dirty they actually are. But you can't do it before 8 a.m. I wonder if that was a noise thing. Because shaking a rug out, you slap it against a wall or something, makes quite a bit of noise. So I wonder if that's where that came from. But yeah, shaking your rug in the street prior to 8 a.m, not happening. Whales or sturgeons, basically fish, need to be offered to the reigning monarch when they become beached. So no longer in the water in the sea, beached onto land. This law dates back to 1322 when Edward II, again, decreed that the head and spermaceti of a whale should be given to the king, while the rest of the carcass belonged to the finder. Let's just look at spermaceti. I've not got that in my notes here. I just want to look that one up. I meant to. A white waxy substance produced by the sperm whale, formerly used in candles and ointments. It is present in a rounded organ in the head, where it focuses acoustic signals and aids in the control of buoyancy. Okay, very interesting. I always have, I have the notes that you can see here if you're watching on YouTube, but I have my personal notes, which has everything I want to bring out in it. I don't just make this up as I go along. Some of it I do, I'll be honest. But I forgot to look up that word. So there you go. So basically, if a whale or a sturgeon was beached, had to go to the head, and the spermaceti, which of course was very beneficial, had to go to the monarch, and the carcass belongs to the finder. And it goes on to say that a similar law exists in Iceland, where any whale that washes ashore must be reported to the local sheriff, who then decides whether to give it to the king or queen. So quite a similar understanding of that law. Okay, next one. Knock knock ginger. Or knock down ginger. Basically, it's that game where you knock on a door and then you run away. And of course, none of us have ever played that game, particularly when we were kids. You knock on a door and then you run away, or you hide and watch the person open the door to much confusion. But we've never done that, have we? Because we're nice, decent humans. This is a frustrating game that people still play, and it can be an extremely annoying nuisance for residents. The Metropolitan Police Act 1839, Section 54, Part 16 states that it is illegal for every person who shall willfully and wantonly disturb any inhabitant by pulling or ringing any doorbell or knocking at any door without lawful excuse, or who shall willfully and unlawfully extinguish the light of any lamp. So again, running up in the old days, turning someone's lamp off, putting it out, and then running off. It's illegal to do this. Some people do it as children, not myself. Some people do it, you knock on a door, maybe if you're in a hotel or in your neighbourhood, knock on the door and then you run behind a bush and watch the person open it and then have a little giggle to yourself, whatever. But yeah, apparently that's illegal. Okay, number 12, we're going to bring cattle and cows back into this. It's prohibited to be drunk while managing cattle. It really surprises me how many laws we need to do with cattle. What have the United Kingdom population been up to with these poor cattle? Also, as part of Section 12 of the Licensing Act 1872, the legislation of penalties being imposed on people being found drunk also includes those who manage any cattle, horses, carriage, or steam engine on any highway or other public places. The law was put into place in order to prevent accidents from happening and to keep people safe. So if you're drunk, you can't manage cattle, horses, carriage, or steam engine. Just throw that one in there. So you've got to leave your steam engine at home if you've had too much to drink. But yeah, no managing cattle, apparently, if you've had too much to drink. Number 13, and I completely agree with this one. You cannot queue jump at tube station ticket halls. Now, I think queue jumping or to skip the line should be illegal in any situation. I hate it. Not just at tube stations. And generally as British people, we despise a queue jumper. Jumping the queue at a tube station ticket hall, or we would say underground, is an offence under the London and Underground bylaws imposed by Transport for London. This law was put into place as it can cause a lot of frustration for other people who are waiting in line, and it can also be dangerous if people are pushing past each other to get on the train. So it's illegal if you're caught queue jumping, because you do get some long queues at the ticket station, then it's technically illegal. Don't do it. And just out of general kindness for humanity, let's not skip lines. We're all waiting. We don't need to do it. If you are going to London and you want to travel on the Underground, I highly recommend an Oyster card. Brilliant service. You don't have to queue up for tickets. You just tap it. Or if you've got a contactless card, you can simply just use that. You don't need to get a ticket for it. You can just tap your contactless card when you go in, and then when you come out of the station that you arrived at, your destination, you can tap again and it will just charge you for that distance. I do this all the time. It's much easier. Okay, and our final law for the podcast. You cannot dress up as a police officer or as a member of the armed forces. So you cannot impersonate a police officer or someone from the army. These weird laws, the Seamen's and Soldiers' False Characters Act 1906 and Police Act 1996, were put in place to prevent people from impersonating a police officer or army personnel deliberately, as it can be very confusing for members of the public, and it could also lead to dangerous situations. So this is a pretty good law, and I think this is the same in many other countries. You can't dress up as a police officer, and of course it is an absolute crime to impersonate a police officer for obvious reasons. So there you go, just a few laws that I came up with, that I came across the other day. I put the link to the article. There are a few more in this article, but time has run out for this week's episode. But let me know which one of those laws surprised you the most. But also, if you have got any strange or unusual laws from your country or from other countries that you do know of, please let us know in the comments. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed that episode this week. I hope you were able to just relax, sit back, and just take in some of the English language in a relaxed and real way. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.